welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about this case from a few years ago, but this case will forever leave me confused because the circumstances are super sketchy, and of course I want to hear your opinions on this case. And if you guys haven't yet, my name is Angela Hoffer. Don't forget to subscribe and let's get to it. So Ellen Greenberg was born on June 23rd of 1983 in New York City. She is the daughter of Joshua Greenberg and Sandra Greenberg, who both work in the dental field. Joshua describes his daughter as a girly girl. She has a very nurturing soul, and she was exceptionally kind. She ended up going into the teaching field, and a lot of her students idolized her. Ellen ended up meeting a man, Sam, who worked in the TV field. He was a producer for NBC, and after being together for 3 years, the couple ended up getting engaged. They planned to get married in August of 2011. Ellen adored Sam, and her parents were fond of him as well. On the day of January 26, 2011, Ellen was on the way to work and spoke to her mom on the phone as usual. It was a typical conversation. They chatted about taxes and the snow that was going to fall there in Pennsylvania. The snow ended up getting worse and the school ended up dismissing early. Ellen assisted all of her students to call their families and made sure that everyone had gotten home. After all the students were taken home, she went to get some gas and went home. When she got home, her and Sam hung out for a little while, and then Sam went to go work. Now here's the crime scene, so pay close attention because this is really weird, okay? So, on his arrival, Sam acknowledged that their door was shut. It was rare for her to be home and close the door. The door was not locked as normal, as it was closed with a swing lock. They only did the swing lock at night and never did it in the daytime. Sam texts and calls her and tells her that he is waiting at the door. He also says that he is getting annoyed and cannot unlock the door. Sam began to get concerned when Sam got no reaction and went to security to beg them to open the door. The security worker said to Sam that he could not unlock the door for him because it's against the policy. So Sam decided to break in and have the security worker oversee it. This is where he ends up seeing her. When Sam broke the door down, he was stunned. Sam discovered Ellen on the ground of their living room floor. When Sam saw her, he could tell that she was dead. Ellen's corpse was leaning against the cabinet, and Sam discovered a neat white towel in her hands. Sam instantly called the police, and the dispatch instructed Sam to begin chest compressions instantly. Sam started CPR and understood a knife was lodged in her, so the dispatch officer instructed him to stop. When EMTs got there, they couldn't do anything to save her because she was declared dead at 6:40 p.m. Right away, the police chose to deal with the case as suicide. At the spectacle, the police discovered freshly cut fruit. There was a strainer with freshly washed blueberries. Police chose to deal with this case as if she took her own life. They discovered no indication of a break-in or forced entry. Ellen did not have any defense wounds either. There was no indication on Ellen's corpse that she had struggled to fight anyone off. There was also no indication of blood outside of the kitchen area. The knife discovered in Ellen only had her DNA on its handle. Since the snow was prevalent that day, they surveyed the snow for footprints, but nothing was found. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a trigger warning because I'm going to talk about her after deaths, her body, all that kind of stuff, so it might be a little graphic. The day after she passed, the medical examiner started the autopsy. He discovered 8 stab wounds to her chest area, and they ranged in depth. Some of the stab wounds only went 0.2 centimeters deep, while other ones went 4 inches deep. Ellen also had a 2-inch stab wound to her stomach and a 2.5-inch hole on her scalp. Ellen had 10 stab wounds to the rear of her neck and 11 bruises on her right arm, her abdomen, and right leg. Some of these grazes looked old and some of them looked like they were more recent. At the end of the autopsy, the medical examiner declared the case as homicide. No one from the police station or the medical examiner's office reached out to Ellen's family about the altercation in the case. The family sadly found out about this on the news. This was in Manayunk, Pennsylvania. I'm going to get into the homicide aspect of things and the police, but I do just want to say this before I get into it. And I'm not saying this about all Philadelphia police officers. I'm from like 20 minutes away, and I will say they're not the best. Just gonna throw that out there. The Philadelphia Homicide Unit was called in to investigate this case. The homicide unit glanced at Sam's key fobs records and traced where he went in the complex. The homicide unit also was eligible to notice that no one unauthorized reached the complex. Sam's alibi was a match. He was cleared from the suspect list. A few days later, January 29th of 2011, the police declared that even though the medical examiner ruled the case as a homicide, they were still looking at the circumstances as if she took her own life. The investigators found out that Ellen's mental health had most probably declined within the last 2 months of her life. People told that Ellen appeared nervous and anxious about everything. When Ellen was inquired about her emotions, she told people that it was her job. The police brought some teachers in from school and questioned them. The teachers told the investigators that Ellen appeared stressed by the employment and did not appear to be any more stressed out with her employment than any of the other teachers. Ellen's parents told them that Ellen had called them and notified them that she wanted to resign from her job. Ellen's parents also asked her if there was anything else causing her to think this way, and she said to her parents that she was just stressed out. Her parents guessed it was very unusual for her to behave like this due to her marriage being only a few months away. Her parents ended up recommending her going to a psychiatrist, which she did, and she ended up going to 3 visits. It appeared that it helped her mood. What's wild too, in Ellen's psychiatrist remarks, they said that she didn't appear suicidal. She ended up being diagnosed with tension and an adjustment disorder. She was prescribed to take medicine for this. When the toxicology reports came back, there was only 2 of the drugs in her system out of the 4 that were prescribed to her. So the family wasn't buying it. So they ended up hiring their own lawyer and forensic pathologist to help get the police to open the case back up. The police refused to access records, so the family had to go and file to get them through public record, which they ended up getting the access to the file information, but here's what's a little bit shady. They were not allowed to take any notes or anything. So when they looked into the file, there was not a neuropathology report. He asked the regional police station and the medical examiner where it was, and they told them it was either misplaced or did not exist. They also discovered that the medical examiner did not have a neuropathologist staff there at the time. They also found out that the medical examiner had a piece of Ellen's spinal cord at the office. Tom got in connection with a forensic pathologist to analyze the spinal cord of Ellen Greenberg. The forensic pathologist concluded something unusual than the first supposed pathologist. The forensic pathologist concluded that one of the stab wounds penetrated Ellen's cranial cavity and broke the cranial nerves and the brain. As a result of this, Ellen would have been severely impaired or lost consciousness and would encounter horrible pain. This forensic pathologist also assumed that there was an indication of strangulation. But then the biggest question, how did the door get locked from the inside if it wasn't a suicide? The lawyer said that there's many videos on YouTube that demonstrate how to utilize this swing lock from the inside. And the experts also said, looking at her phone and her internet history, there was nothing that screamed that she did this to herself. There was no searches for quick suicide, how to commit suicide, anything like that. And in 2019, the family filed a civil lawsuit against the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office and the pathologist. They were wishing to get the medical examiners to alter the ruling from undetermined to homicide. To this day, the attorneys and other people on the team still accept that the circumstance is impossible. Other outcomes have been made. They discovered that 2 different knives inflicted the wounds. One is serrated and the other being smooth. There was only 1 knife discovered, which was the one inside of her at this time. Okay, on to her fiance, Sam. He's never given any interviews. But in 2020, some more information came out about him, including how he was acting at the scene of the crime. Sam's story was that when he was kicking down the door, the security man was with him. Phil, the security man, told that Phil was never with Sam. Phil also said to the police that Sam was not wearing sneakers that day. He was wearing boots. This makes no sense because he was seemingly coming from the gym. Sam also called 2 other numbers before calling 911. He called his parents and his uncle, who is a lawyer. Both his parents and uncle on their way there before 911 was. The dispatcher officer also said that during the call, Sam was calm. They also reported that Sam was inquired to perform CPR, and he said, "Do I have to?" Sam knew there was a knife inside Ellen's chest. He tells the dispatch that she possibly had fell on it. They also talk about how there was no blood at the scene, so they wonder, did somebody clean it up? There wasn't even any luminol testing done. And then recently it was told to the public that the door was never kicked down. The door had little to no defects. The only damage was discovered on the lock, and one of the screws was skipping. The screw was never glimpsed at again. Sam's family came back to the crime scene that day after and collected Sam's equipment and Ellen's laptop and cell phone. So what do you guys think? Do you think she did this to herself, or do you think Sam did it, or do you think just someone who maybe lived in the apartment complex? Personally, and this is allegedly, this is totally my opinion, I think he did it, personally. Totally my opinion. Can't prove it. I don't think she did this to herself. But I can't wait to hear what you guys think. I love you guys so much, and I will see you soon.